If you're a regular Bay TV watcher, you'll recognise that, of course, as our signature tune. And this is the man who wrote it, Patrick Dineen. Welcome to Arts Alive Music. So here we are with Patrick Dineen in his study. Patrick, what I want to know is, how do you become a composer? Is it something you fall into?
Well, I started with a band. I just went out and bought a piano one day. I was painting and decorating. And I went out and started learning how to play, and then I formed a band and sang. I'd call it singing. It wasn't really singing, but I did that for a while. And then I realised I was really, really getting into it, so I went to evening classes and then got myself into the Guildhall School of Music.
To study composition?
Yeah.
And so what do they actually teach you there then?
Well, it was amazing. I mean, you just, because everything I was doing was on instinct, because I hadn't really been formally trained. So they just give you structure and the sense of the techniques of composition and just structure, really, and ways of getting into composing something. Because up to then, I'd just been kind of working on instinct, which is great. I mean, instinct seemed very important, but
So what's the process then? I mean, do you get a tune in your head? Do you try things out on a keyboard?
Well, it varies depending on what I'm doing. If I'm doing a show, I do a lot of work for shows and theatre. I do a lot of research into the period and the time, and I try and kind of work out the kind of world that it's in. And then I'll talk to the director about where I think the music needs to be plotted. And then I'll concentrate on, I like to work with a theme, which can then have lots of variations on it, because I like a theme. I like a theme because an audience can identify with the theme, and they can see that the theme can travel through the story and the drama. So, and then I concentrate on trying to create a theme first of all, and then when I've done that, I set myself very strong kind of parameters. So I'll go, I'm only going to use a xylophone, a piano, and a cello, or I'm going to use sound design and a piano, and I stick to those parameters, create the world, and stick with them throughout the process.
Take me through an average day of a composer's life.
You cut yourself shaping this. Well, I'll get up in the morning, I'll have a cup of coffee and some fruit juice, and if I'm working, and I'll come in here where I work, which is lovely and peaceful. I'll read the script. I'll have met the director. This is for work I do with TV, theatre, whatever. It's that. Then I'll think about the piece. I'll listen to a lot of other music. I'll play other music, and I kind of let things feed in. So it's like you've got to get. A lot of the early stuff would just go straight in the bin for a couple of days, and then you start to get something, and then I work on from there. And when you get it, you know it. You can't cheat. You just know you've got it. And very often, usually the things that you get, they sort of arrive. But I think you have to kind of get there. So you write 5 or 6 things that are nearly there, and then it comes and they arrive. And I never use a piece of music if I can't remember it the next morning.
I was going to say, it's a bit like people say that if you're doing a crossword in the newspaper, if you can't finish it, you should leave it, wake up the next morning, and it'll become much easier for you. Is it a bit like that?
Yeah, it is, because I believe that you have to let your subconscious work as well. Because music's a very intellectual thing, but it's a very emotional thing as well. So I try and let the subconscious stuff feed stuff in. I know that sounds a bit hippy-dippy, but it works. Yeah. And I let my subconscious come back with it. And I always know when I've got it. And then I can see from the reaction of the director and the actors and whoever it is that I've got it. And once you've got the basic theme or motif, I'm fine. Then it's a lot of fun. The tough bit is getting the theme. Once you've got that, then you've got all kinds of fun with the orchestration. And the other thing I do a lot is, because I have a sort of virtual orchestra in my computer, I've literally got an orchestra in my computer, and a lot of sampling and sound design, so I mix things up. So, for example, I use all kinds of things. I mean, I might use this, or I might turn the page of a book and record it and sample it and do things with it and process it. So that's another part of the whole kind of process. You write the theme, then you orchestrate it, you add in the sound design, and then you process the whole thing at the end.
I know that there are software like Sibelius and so on, which I think many composers use now to help them with the harmonization, the orchestration and so on. Is that something which you would use?
I do use Sibelius sometimes. Like if I was working with, like I did some work with the string section of the Philharmonic several years ago, and I used Sibelius for that, working out all the parts, writing out all the parts, printing it. But most of the time I work with Logic, which is an incredible program, and I've used it for years.
Some people might say that was cheating.
How
Or is it just making it easy?
How is it cheating?
By getting the by getting the computer to write it for you.
No, it doesn't. The computer doesn't write a single note. I write everything. I mean, the computer's just a world that I go into. It's like once upon a time there was me and a tape recorder. The computer is, I mean, everything that you hear of mine I've written. All it does is it facilitates and speeds up certain things. It doesn't actually give you, I mean, it might do with some people, but with me I never use it. I mean, I will work out all the harmony and the counterpoint and everything. All it does is it speeds it up, so when you play it in from your head, then it can print it out very quickly, and it just means it's rather than just writing it all out by hand. Although I'm happy to do that as well, and sometimes writing it out by hand is a very good way to work as well.
Sure.
But it's not. Everything I do I write. Yeah.
No, I was only joking, really.
Okay.
But you mentioned sound sampling and so on, and your book and your other things. So it's sound.
Sometimes I do
sound scapes or whatever that you're making, as well as just music in the conventional way.
Well, if you listen to a lot of music now, and there's a long discussion to be had about this. I mean, I'm quite old-fashioned in that I like a lot of film composers who have a theme and develop it through a film, but a lot of contemporary film scores are kind of sound design and music. So I have to be, and I enjoy it. I have to be very on top of that. For example, I recently walked through Liverpool from the Albert Dock back to mine and recorded the whole journey. And then I'll take bits of that and sample it and process it. And you take something like that, and you slow it down and take it down 4 octaves and add reverb and echo. You have something amazing that you can use.
You talked a lot so far about writing for theatre and working with directors and so on. I mean, these are pieces which are more or less commissioned from you.
Yeah.
But supposing if you're writing something original, I mean, how does that start? Is it just a tune in your head or an idea for something, or where the parameters haven't been set by somebody else?
It's a different process in that, I mean, I've done a lot of work for theatre, TV, radio. That's what I largely do. That's how I earn a living. My own stuff, I've done albums, but I also write my own little pieces. Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's harder because the good thing about working on other people's stuff is that you get a deadline and you've got clear parameters, and you have to, and I love deadlines, and on the whole I like working with other people. Sometimes they drive you nuts, but who doesn't? And I love all that. When you're working on your own, you haven't got that.
Yeah.
So you have to be very, very disciplined.
Yeah.
But it's all essentially the same. I mean, I think, sorry, forgive me, this sounds a bit pretentious. For me, music, I have my own garden inside. That's what music's like to me. And each year I cultivate it, and it gets a bit bigger, and I go there, and it's a world that I go to. And whenever I'm working, even on my own stuff as well, I do that. I suppose there's a freedom in my own stuff. But then you have to be careful with freedom, because you have to be very disciplined.
Yes, I mean, you were saying again that when you've got a commission piece, when you've got it.
Yeah.
And you're pretty much there. Presumably there's maybe a bit of tidying up to do. But
Yes.
With your own piece, there must be an urge just to go on and on and on, endlessly refining and fiddling and so on.
Yes.
Because you're not doing it for anybody else.
And you have to watch that. I like to work quickly. Once I've got it, I like to work fast. And you have to watch that. Yeah, so I tend to, I just all the time, you develop techniques all the time to push yourself on to get there. Otherwise, you could spend years on a project, and I don't want to do that.
Sure. You mentioned also working with other people. I mean, it must be quite a solitary life up here. I mean, there's nobody you can kind of compare notes with.
No, I mean, when I'm with the actors or singers or musicians, it's great, but most of the time it's me in this room with the computer. We have a very intimate relationship. I'm just working with the computer, but I'm used to that now, and it's great, and it's very exciting to go out into the world with the work. But yeah, it can, 1 a.m. when you're right, it can get a bit solitary. Yeah.
You've done a lot of work, as you say, in the theatre, and your latest piece that is almost ready to be launched on the public is My Clockwork Heart. Just tell me a little bit about that.
It's a story about a mechanical who was around in the 18th century, who was the first mechanical to be able to walk, play the piano and write, who is in this museum, locked in this museum in a room, who escapes from the museum, and he's pursued by the head of the museum and to other people, and he goes through the city that he's not been through for 200 years. But really what it's about the role that we're all given in life and how we're all programmed in life one way or another. And he has a clockwork winding key, and I won't give away the ending, but it's about that really, and it's for 3 actors, but it's very much, if we're going to do it in the round, it's very much about sound and music as well. So I'm creating an impressionistic sound of the world. Part of the world is he hears some of the characters from the past, which we see, we never see. They're invisible in his head, and we hear them all. So I'm kind of recreating Baroque music. I'm recreating classical music. I'm recreating horse and carriages. I'm doing it all in a very impressionistic way. So if you come and see the show, it'll be on 4 speakers, and it'll surround you, and you'll be immersed in that kind of world. But I'm interested in that aspect of it. I'm very interested in how you combine sound design, sampling, all these techniques in a live theatre space with actors, with a story.
Sounds absolutely fascinating. In part 2, we're going to be with Patrick at rehearsal at the Unity, so join us then. Welcome back to Arts Alive Music, which this time is featuring the composer Patrick Dineen. And in this part, we're actually now in the Unity Theatre in Hope Place, and it's day 2 of rehearsals? How's it going?
Day 3 is going great. It's going really well, thank you.
And tell me, now that you're actually here, you've moved the music from your keyboard to a stage. What's happening? All
the music's on a laptop because there's a score all the way through. It's a combination of there's 2 kind of areas of the score. One is the music from the 18th century, which I've recreated by writing some original Baroque classical music, and there's a kind of more sound design world of now. So we're working with that, and we're working in the space, and we've had quite a radical moment that we were going to do the whole thing in the round, and we decided we're going to do it in a more of an immersive way as a promenade piece, using the space and highlighting certain areas. And I'm very, very excited about that. So you come in and you stand for about just over an hour, but you move through all the different.
So the audience will not actually be seated at all?
They will not be seated. They will not be seated. You have to suffer for your art sometimes.
No, it's very important. They should. So they'll be what? They'll be guided around.
They will be guided around. There'll be stewards, and we're going to use the space. It's very dark in there, and normally it has seating, but we've put all that back, and we're going to use the whole space for different locations. We're going to do it so that they are guided around the space. We were going to do it as a sort of theatre in the round, but we've sort of liberated it from that. It's much freer. So it is a theatre piece, but it's kind of part promenade, part sort of theatre, part nightclub, all those kind of things, which I think is really exciting. They
don't actually have to join in themselves, do they?
They don't have to join in at all, no.
There's something I find very annoying, actually, about going to the theatre and then being invited to take part. I think, no, I'm the audience, you're the actors. But so it's not going to be like that.
It's not going to be like that at all, although there is one moment where one of the characters has an ice cream, and if we had the money, I'd get an ice cream seller and get them to join in by eating ice cream. But no, nobody has to join in, because that would be horrible to inflict that on them.
Okay, just remind us of the story then.
Okay, the story is about a mechanical automata that was created in the 18th century in France. It's based on some research I did about automata, but this automata becomes part of he is a symbol of freedom and the free spirit in pre-revolutionary France, but he gets caught up in the whole aristocratic French world. He becomes part of a rather corrupt, decadent world. He winds up 200 years later in a museum. He's a wind-up. You have to wind him. That's why it's called My Clockwork Heart, and he escapes. And he's pursued by the head of the museum and the head cleaner of the museum through the city, which he hasn't been in for about 200 years. And the piece is about the role that we play in life and how everyone, a lot of us have a kind of specific role and how we can break out of that. That sounds very intellectual. It is an intellectual. It's also a chase. It's got the whole element just to chase through a city.
Okay, and without spoiling the story, I mean, how does it end? How does it move on?
He moves on. I'm going to tell you how it ends. It's a beautiful
We've got to
ending.
come and see it. Okay.
You've got to come and see it. It's got a beautiful ending, and he moves on. And it's interesting working with the concept of something that's mechanical and what we project of our own humanity onto that character. But we're not doing it as well. We're not kind of doing all this sort of nonsense. You know, once we're in that world, Paul, who's a brilliant actor, just moves freely, like we all would. You know, he doesn't move as a mechanical once he's wound up.
Help me! Watch his arm. Heavy with subtext, eh? Stop it!
It sounds like a very deeply personally felt piece. I mean, does this reflect some of you in here?
I'm sure it does. Yeah, it is. I'm fascinated by worlds that are heightened and are not naturalistic. And, you know, I like those kind of... In the past, there's a lot of those kind of stories that were part adult fairy tale, part heightened, all the kind of stuff that went on in German filmmaking, silent films. I love all that stuff. And I want to use that in a kind of contemporary way.
Your music is... you write a lot for the theatre.
Yes.
So, I mean, is it thematic to the extent... I mean, have you got themes for each of the characters, or how does that work?
Yeah, there are two, possibly three themes in it. I mean, there's actually one scene. There's a scene where he's a mechanical and he's playing a theme, which he plays every night when he's in a different chateau, and he starts to improvise on the theme. And that is a theme, a Baroque theme, written for spinet and strings. There's that, and there's a kind of contemporary, much more sound design-based, filmic theme for the city and the world we live in now.
Did you have your own ideas when you were writing the music of how it was going to look? I mean, now you're in the theatre, you're working with the director and the actors. Is it looking as you imagined it would be?
Yeah, completely. Very exciting, yeah. I mean, the only thing I'm worried about is time, because we have got very little time. But yeah, it is. And I really love what Paul is doing with it. She's made it very stark black and white lighting, and yeah, definitely.
You write a lot for the theatre, as I was saying, don't you? I mean, you're much more of a... You've written for the theatre, you've worked at the Playhouse and the Unity many times before. You're a theatrical composer more than what, an orchestral composer, could I say?
Yeah, that's correct. I like doing music to stories. I've written a lot of songs and lyrics, but I like to do scores that have theme and a part of a story and telling a story emotionally. That's what I like to do.
And now being here, actually, the music has now moved on from your PC and your keyboard and is now in the black space of the Unity.
Yeah, and we're going to do it we're going to have speakers placed all around the space, so the sound will move as they move. And the sound will maybe, for example, you may have a moment where the sound is in one speaker in a corner and then it'll burst out into the whole room. So it's like conducting laptop music in the space.
But it's obviously, I mean, you and Paula must be working very carefully to choreograph it, because presumably the actors have got to move absolutely to match the music rather than the music to match the actor. Am I right?
To a degree, yeah, it's a kind of marriage of the two. But there's a lot of freedom in there as well. I mean, there's some of it where the music is atmospheric. So because I wouldn't in any way want to constrict the actors. I mean, this piece is about sound and light and the space, but it's also about the actors. I mean, we're not going to have a massive set, anything like that. Little kind of moments and little fragments of props and things, but I want it to be an experience that people are not just sitting like that, but nothing wrong with that. You know, it's all very good, but it's not that kind of piece.
So they should come out feeling...
come out feeling, well, what do you come out feeling when you've seen a show? Enriched, I hope. Stimulated, thought, had a good time. because I think I also want to say about it is, it is about a mechanical, but there is, at the heart of it, there's a chase. He escapes a museum and he's pursued through a city. So you got that whole kind of dramatic, classic kind of chase sequence that goes on for an hour, so that hopefully that alone will grip the audience.
It's only me. It's me again. I know you can hear me.
Just tell me the dates when it's on again.
16th, 17th, 18th of April with a matinee on the Saturday.
So there we are, your chance to see it, 4 times only, 3 days, 16th, 17th and 18th of April, My Clockwork Heart at the Unity. Patrick, thank you very much indeed. That's it for Art to Live Music this time. Join us next time.